All right, so I just made this up really quick this morning just to review some things with you guys. So the first thing is X and Y intercept. So your X intercept is where it crosses the X axis. And the Y intercept is where it crosses the Y axis. So if the X intercept is at -4, we go to the X axis and we find -4 and we put a dot right there. Remember that that coordinate is -4, 0. So anytime you have an intercept, an X or a Y intercept, the opposite coordinate is always 0. So your Y-intercept is -2. Sorry, 0, -2 would be your coordinate. And then if we're graphing a line, we just connect it. So again, X-intercept crosses the X-axis, Y-intercept crosses the Y-axis. If we're graphing the line, remember the 3 or that n number is where you start. And then the 2/1 or the 2x is your slope. And we rise to run 1, and remember that it's positive. Okay. So we start at +3. We rise to run 1. If we can't go any more on the graph, we can go backwards. Remember, you're not going to graph by hand tomorrow at all. It'll all be online. You're probably just going to pick it out. So like A, B, C, or D. So remember, we start at 3 and then go up 2/1 because it's positive. If it were negative, we would go down 2 and write 1, down 2. All right. What they do like to give you are equations like this that you have to graph. So remember, for this one, we're going to solve for y, and there are 2 steps to that. You're going to move x first. So this one doesn't have an x, so we're actually going to move this 8. It's normally over there, but we're going to move it over. So get y alone. Okay, so this is a weird one that didn't have an x. We get 2y equals -8. Your second step is to divide by y. So we're going to divide by 2. And we get y equals -4. Now, this one doesn't have a slope. All it has is a y-intercept at -4. Every y is -4, so this is a horizontal line. So y equals is a horizontal. X equals is a vertical line. Okay, so just so you know that. So then it's asking you to write equations. If they ask you to do it by hand, this one's really simple. Remember, your slope comes first, your y-intercept is last, and your slope has an x with it. So y equals, your slope is 3, we put an x with it, and then we have a +1. There's no more to that question at all. If I get one like number 5 tomorrow, I'm actually going to use my graph paper. And remember, you guys, don't get numbers on your graph paper so it looks exactly like this. So you got to make your own. It goes through 5, -1. Remember, Desmos will graph that for you if it's calculator active and you're not sure how to graph, but you go over first and then down to -1. And then it says your slope is -1, 5. So -1, down 1, over 5, but I can't do that. So I'm going to go up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to go up 1 and over 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And from here, I can get the equation of my line, because where did we start? We started at 0. So our y-intercept is 0. That means our equation, just like the first one, our slope is -1/5. We put an x with it. Our y-intercept is 0, but they will not put the 0 on it. So your answer should be -1/5. x. Any questions? Everybody okay with page 1 and graphing? Okay, these are like just highlights that I felt like you would see tomorrow at some point. Write the standard form of the equation of the line described. It's going to go through 4, 4 and perpendicular. So there are two things that you may have. One of those is parallel, which means use the same slope. Or you will have perpendicular, which I told you was flip and change the slope. So flip it over and change the sign. So this one says perpendicular. The only thing you need to this equation is the slope. We're going to flip it over and change the sign to positive, which gives us a positive 2 slope. I'm going to go back to my graph paper. It says it goes through 4, 4. Then we do rise 2, run 1. But that's not getting my y-intercept. I'm going to go down 2 and over 1 until I cross the y-axis, and I crossed it at -4. 1, 2, 3, -4. So my equation is y equals, my slope was 2, put an x with it, and then my y-intercept was -4. Again, it's easy to do when you graph. Remember also, if we're using Desmos, we can put this equation in, and I'm going to show you guys that for just a second. Let me get my Desmos up so you guys can see it. All right, so if we're doing this problem, it says through 4, 4. And then it has perpendicular to y equals -1/2 x -4. So if it's multiple choice, you can put your multiple choice answers in. So we said it was y equals 2x -4. And you guys can see that it crosses at that T shape, the 90 degrees, and it does go through that red dot. So we know that that is the correct answer. And again, you would need multiple choice for that, and I don't have multiple choice on this packet. I just gave you just regular ones. So let's go back. All right. Linear inequalities, these are usually just multiple choice. They're nothing crazy. It says sketch the graph, and we're going to do the same thing that we did before with y equals. There's just some shading involved. So we're going to start at 2. We're going to go up 6. Thank you. You can just settle down. I appreciate it. You can go up 6 and over 5. So it's going to put you like up here somewhere. Or you can go down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 5. So that would be a regular line, and you would slash through it and make it connect the dots. But this little symbol in here tells you that it's greater than or equal to. Equal to means we can go ahead and make that line. Okay, if it shows a line, you draw a line. Greater than, remember we plug in a point, we can plug in 0, 0. You can also do this in Desmos. So if you're having to do it by hand, this is how you do it by hand. We get 0 is greater than or equal to 6/5 times 0 plus 2. 6/5 times 0 is 0. So we get greater than or equal to 2. If this is a true statement, we're going to shade 0, 0. If it's false, don't shade 0, 0. So 0 is not greater than or equal to 2. So we do not shade 0, 0. And that's what it'll look like. Okay. So one more time on the next one, we start at -1. We go up 4 and over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 5. Or we can go down 4 and over 5. It has a line, so we draw a line. Because we didn't go through 0, 0, we can plug that in. So 0 is greater than or equal to 4/5 times 0 minus 1. The 0 cancels out. Is 0 greater than or equal to -1? It is. So we shade 0, 0, which is this side. On number 9, they give it to you in standard form, so we have to solve for y. We have to solve for y. So remember, solve for y. This is a perfect one. We move x and divide by y. So it's a positive 3x. To move it, we subtract 3x. Those cancel out. We get 4y is less than. I'm going to put my x first, negative 3x minus 20. Your second step is to divide by y. Then we get y is less than negative 3/4 x. 20 divided by 4 is 5. This says we start at -5. It says we go down 3 and over 4, but I can't do that on the graph. So I'm going to go up 3 and left 4. And again, I can't really do that anymore, but we can kind of guess it. Okay. Now this one doesn't have a line. So we dash this one. Again, we dash it because it doesn't have a line. Still do the same thing, plug in 0, 0 because it didn't go through 0, 0. So we get 0 is less than negative 3/4 times 0 minus 5. We get that 0 is less than -5. That is false. So we do not shade 0, 0. We shade the other side. All right. Any questions so far? All right. They love to do solving systems on the inactive part. So this is a good thing for inactive, meaning I'm not going to use my calculator at all for these. So we're going to check them out. If it's active, you just type them into Desmos, find out where they cross. Okay. So you don't have to do any work on these if it's calculator active. Inactive, we're going to look for 2 that are alike, one positive, one negative. So we can cancel them out. And then we add them like a normal equation. -4 plus 2 is -2x. 4 plus -14 is -10. Solve for x by dividing by -2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. A negative over negative makes a positive. So there's the first part of your answer. Pick either equation. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to do the last one. Again, it doesn't matter which one. And we're going to put this x in. So 2 times 5 minus 4y equals -14. We get 2 times 5 is 10 minus 4y equals -14. Solve for y, we're going to move the 10, what's on the same side but not with it, the 10 cancels out. We get -4y equals -24. Divide by -4. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So your solution to this one, your x is 5. Your y is 6. It's always a coordinate. All right. Then you get to number 11. We see 2 that are the same, but I need them positive and negative. So I make sure I change the bottom one to make it cancel out. You have to change all of them. Your 6's cancel out. 1 minus 9 is -8y. 21 minus 13, if you have to, write it down. 21 minus 13. I'm going to borrow. 11 minus 3 is 8. And I have 0 in front of it. divide by -8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. Negative over positive, or positive over negative is a negative. So our y is -1. Pick either one. I'm going to pick the top one this time. 6x plus y equals -13. Sorry, I got something under my paper right there. 6x, y is -1 equals -13. We're going to add 1. We get 6x equals -12. Divide by 6, and x equals -2. Our final answer is an x, y coordinate -2, -1. I'm going to show you number 12. I'm going to show you number 12 on Desmos, just so we have one. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and then I'll show you the other one by hand as well. Sorry, I'm not doing very good right now. So number 12 says -6x minus 12y equals -6. I literally am just typing it in. -2x plus 6y equals -2. Where they cross at 1, 0 is their answer. That's all you have to do. So if they give it to you on the calculator active part, please plug it into Desmos. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing this. 1, 0. Sorry, y'all. And then we found out that this one was 1, 0. All right, I'm going to show you the next one. Give it just a second. Grab a notebook. I don't have enough room to write that. So I'm just copying the problem down. 9x plus 4y equals 6. 4x plus 10y equals -22. So one like this that doesn't have anything in common at all, you're going to make it look the same. And the way you do that is we switch the front two numbers. We distribute. Listen carefully. If you're not very good at your multiplication tables, that's okay. This says 9 4 times. So add it up. Okay, you can do +9 on your hand. That's fine. So 4 times 9 is 36x. You should know 4 times 4, which is 16y, and 4 times 6 is 24. Okay. Same thing here. 9 times 4 is 36. They should look alike. That's what we were trying to do. 9 times 10 is 90y. And then this 9 times -22, if you're not sure, do it like old school. 9 times 2 is 18, carry your 1. 9 times 2 is 18, 19. Negative times a positive gives you a negative. Okay, use that scrap paper. It's not going to kill you. I have them looking the same. I need them to cancel out. So I'm going to change all the signs, which actually makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to take out my 36. I have 16 plus -90. I would do that backwards and do 90 minus 16. So borrow. 10 minus 6 is 4. 8 minus 1 is 7. And since your bigger number is negative, your number should be negative. And then I have 24 plus 198. That's little addition. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 9, 10, 11, 12. Carry, I get 222. All right. So you probably will have one on your inactive that looks like this. We're going to divide by -74. And I know you're thinking, I have no idea how to make this work. So this is what I do. Because I don't have a calculator, I just add 74 until I get to 222. So 4 plus 4 is 8. 7 plus 7 is 14. So that's 2 74s. This will be the third 74. 8 plus 4 is 12. 7, 8 plus 4 is 12, which is 222. It took 3 74s. So that means y equals 3. It's a positive over a negative, which is -3. Okay, so that gave me my y. So remember, I need an xy coordinate. So my y is -3. Pick either equation and go back up to the beginning, and I'm going to pick the first one because it's all positive. So 9x plus 4y equals 6. Y was -3. 4 times -3 is -12. Add 12, you should be able to do that. I get 9x equals 18. Divide by 9, and we get 2. So our coordinate is 2, -3. It's not a hard problem. There's just a lot of work to it. And again, use that scrap paper. You got plenty of time, multiple hours to do it. All right. So there's the first page of my review. We have a couple more substitution problems. So these are the same thing that I just did. The only difference is it's solved for y on this one. So I wouldn't do it the same way. Now, if you're using Desmos, do it the same way. Type it in and that's fine. If we're doing this, it's already solved for a variable. I'm just going to stick that in for y. So we're going to get 4x minus 7 instead of y, because I don't want two variables. I'm going to plug in my first equation, 5x minus 5, and then finish it out with that equals 4. I'm going to distribute my -7. So I get 4x, -7 times 5 is -35x. -7 times -5 is 35 equals 4. Clean it up. 4 minus 35 is a -31x plus 35 equals 4. We're going to subtract 35. We get -31x equals -31. Divide by -31. And I get x is +1. So your first part of your solution, your x is +1. How do you get your y? Plug it in right here. What is 5 times 1 minus 5? 5 times 1 is 5. Minus 5 is 0. So your answer is 1, 0. All right. Again, on 15, you might want to switch the front two, but if you see this where y is kind of by itself, we can move this x over and get y equals 14 plus x, and then plug it into the other one if we want to. I do not care which way you do it. It's perfectly fine. So we have 4x plus 6 times, instead of y, we're going to put in 14 plus x, and then equals 14. We're going to distribute. We get 4x plus. Remember 6 times 14, if you can't do it old school. You do know how to multiply. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 2 is 8. So you get 84 plus 6x equals 14. Add your like terms. 4x plus 6x is 10x. We're going to subtract 84. If you have to, do it the normal way. You get -70. Divide by 10. You get -7. So the first part of my answer is -7. And then I'm going to plug in for y right here. Y equals 14 plus -7, or 14 minus 7, which is 7. So there's your answer, -7, 7. All right, just a few more, guys. Just a few more. These are those inequalities again, but they're systems this time, so you're going to have double shading. So I'm going to do one in blue and I'm going to do one in black. So hopefully you can see the difference in those two markers. I don't think I have, I don't think I have any other colors sitting here right at the moment. All right. So we're going to start with the very first one. These are really easy because they're y equals this one we have to solve for to get there. So y equals, we're going to start at 3, and we go down 2 and right 3, or up 2 and left 3. And then it has a line, so it's solid. And we're going to plug in 0, 0. So is 0 less than or equal to negative 2/3 times 0 plus 3? This marks out. Is 0 less than or equal to 3? It is. So we're going to shade this side. Okay. On the next one, we start at negative 2. And again, I'm trying to do this in 2 different colors, so this will be black. Go up 1 over 1. Anytime there's nothing with x, there's always a 1. And to make it a fraction, we put it over 1. It has a line, so we draw a line. And then we plug in 0, 0 because it didn't go through. So 0 is less than or equal to 0 minus 2. Is 0 less than or equal to negative 2? That is false. So we shade the opposite side. And where they both overlap is actually where our answer is. Okay, so we're going to do that one more time. Let me try to do it with some highlight instead. All right, so this is the exact same. The only difference is these are going to be dashed because they don't have any lines. So we're going to start at negative 1 for the first one. It says rise 4, run 3, or down 4 over 3. And these are dashed. Again, you're not going to have to graph it. You're just going to have to pick it out. We're going to plug in 0, 0. So y greater than 4/3 times 0 minus 1. The 4/3 0 cancels out. I'm sorry, this should be a 0. Is 0 greater than negative 1? It is. So we shade 0, 0. On the next one, we start at 2. We move up 1 and over 3. Again, it's dashed. We're going to plug in 0, 0. Is 0 less than 1/3 times 0 plus 2? Your 1/3 times 0 cancels out. Is 0 less than 2? It is. So I'm going to shade the side with 0, 0. And where both are shaded is where your answer is. Okay. I'm going to show you the 18 on Desmos, and the only reason I'm showing you on Desmos is because it's a really long problem to do by hand. Okay, so I am going to stop this share Desmos, and I'm going to type it in so you guys can see it. So just as a reminder, we just straight type it in, 3x minus 5y. Now to get the inequalities, they're under the keyboard. This inequality is less than or equal to 40. And I'll move it so you can see the whole screen in just a minute. The other inequality is 9x plus 5y is greater than or equal to 20. And you can see that both of these lines are solid. Let me minimize me so you guys can see it. Nope, other way. You can see that both are solid and then that they cross here, but it doesn't matter. This darker area where the pink and the gray overlap is what you want to look at. That's where all your answers are. I want to show you what the dash would look like. If I just put in, instead of the equals, you can see that it dashes that line that is negative. Okay, so Desmos will show you how to graph them, period. If you're doing it by hand, you'll have to solve for y and then put it in there. Those will be harder questions. All right. Let me stop sharing this, and we'll go back to this. All right. So then 19, we're going to start factoring. It says the common factor. Remember, our first step to factoring is GCF. Our second step, you want to look to see what it is. It can either be 2 terms, 3 terms, or 4 terms. So this is like a little cheater chart. If it's 2 terms, it's either just GCF or it's pairs and share. If it's 3 terms, it's the cheater method or slide and divide. And if it's 4 terms, the only thing it can be is grouping. Okay, 4 terms is grouping. So this one, we're going to try GCF to begin with. How do we do that? We break it down. 40 is 4 times 10. 4 is 2 and 2. 10 is 2 and 5. 15 is 3 times 5 and then m. Then we have a plus. And then 15 is 3 times 5, and we have 2 m's on this one. We look through the whole thing, and we see that they all have a 5 in common. So when we factor, we're going to pull out a 5 and then write down our leftovers. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. We have a plus. 3 times m, or just 3m. And 3 times m, or 3m squared. That is how you do GCF. If there's more than one, you'll multiply these together. So if there were a 2 in every one, you would put 2 times 5 or 10. So there's an example of just GCF. On the next one, it says factor each completely again. We're going to look at the very first one. It's 3 terms. I'm going to go ahead and tell you there's no GCF. There's no number in front. So this one is cheater method. So we need factors of the last that add to the middle. Now, if this is non-calculator active, it's going to be a little bit harder. We need to find our factors of 3. It's going to be 1 and 3. How do I get a -2? The bigger one has to be negative. So your factors are n and a +1, n and a -3. That's it. Okay. If they are 3 terms and there's a number in front, there's no GCF in this one. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that. You're going to do slide and divide. So we're going to slide that 7 over. We get x squared minus 18x. 7 times 9 is 63, and it's going to be a negative. I need factors of -63 that add to -18. So my factors of 63 are 1 and 63, 2, 3 and 21. And this is going to be it, this 3 and 21, but I need a -18, so it's going to be a -21. So x and a +3, x and a -21. Don't forget I did slide, so I need to divide. This one won't work, so I do bottoms up, and my factor is 7x plus 3. On this one, 21 divided by 7 is just 3. Okay. You would do the same thing on 22. I'm going to show you something real fast on Desmos so you guys can see. Watch this. -8x. Let me do the one we just did. 7x squared minus 18x minus 9. The two numbers that you have right here, this crazy -0.429, I'll talk about that in a minute, and this one is 30. So right there is one of your answers. That's how we get the -3. And then let me see if I can change it over. I don't know if it'll do it. No, it won't do it because it's not a rounded decimal. So that's going to be your fraction. That's your 3/7. If you guys look at that, 3/7 is that 0.4285, but that's why it's not coming out perfect. Okay, so rounds it up. Okay. You could figure that out if you're trying to solve it. So let's go back to right here. I'm going to show you how to do one on the calculator so we can remember how to do that. Let's do Let's do these factors so I can show you. I'm gonna find my calculator. Remember to find your factors on the calculator. You go into y equals. You put in the number you're looking for, negative 63 divide x. And then negative 63 divide x plus x. We're going to look in the red column for negative 18. It's right here at 3 and negative 21. So there's where your two factors come from. So you can do those on calculator. All right. I don't like number 22 because it starts out as a negative. What I would do is go ahead and factor out negative 1 and make it a positive x squared, a positive 10x, and a negative 63. It just changes all the signs. There is no GCF. So I'm going to go ahead and slide and divide. Sorry, I get x squared plus 10x. I don't know what 63 times 8 is. It's negative 504. I need factors of negative 504. That add to positive 10. So I'm looking for a positive 10 on this side. There's positive numbers. There they are. Negative 18 and 28. Negative 18 and 28. I did slide, now I need to divide. These numbers will not reduce to perfect whole numbers, so we're going to put them in our calculator and math enter them, which gives me 9 over 4. And then we do bottoms up, so 4x minus 9. We're going to do the other one, 28 over 8, math enter. Gives us 7 over 2, bottoms up, 2x plus 7. So there's the factored form for number 22. 24 is the exact same way, so I'm not even going to go over that one. Let's look at 25. 25 is the last factoring right here that we're going to do. It's 4 terms. It is 4 terms. So we're going to group those 4 terms. And then we're going to break them down. 64 is 8 times 8, which is 6 2s and 3 n's. Minus 56 is 7 times 8 and 2 n's. If we look at that, there are 3 2s and 2 n's in common. So 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. Sorry, 8 and 2 n's. That leaves us with 2 times 2 times 2 is 8 and an n minus 7. There's your negative 7. 24 is 6 times 4 and an n. 21 is 7 times 3. All we have is a 3 in common. It's a positive 3. That leaves me with 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8n and a minus 7. If these look alike, you did it right. 8n minus 7. And then what you have left over, 8n squared plus 3 is your final set of factors. And that is it. So I at least did one of each where you have, I'll come back to 23, hold on. Where you have no number in front, so you do cheater method, where you only do GCF, where you do slide and divide. I saved 23 till the end. I'm going to put it down here so you guys can see it. 25x to the 4th minus, x squared minus 4. I'm going to break this down because it might have a GCF. And we can see that it's pairs, 5s, x's, and 2s. That means I'm going to share a 5x and a 2. One is positive, one is negative. So there is your pairs and share. Now, 26, 27, 28, 29. All 4 of those can be done straight into Desmos. So I will show you 26 in Desmos. You literally type it in, so don't feel like I'm doing anything crazy. So 26 has this equation right here, 16r squared, but we're going to change it to x squared plus 4 equals 85. There are your two answers, negative 2.25 and positive 2.25. That's all you have to do, okay? If we're doing it by hand, because there's only r squared, sorry, I shared the wrong thing. Because it's only r squared, we're going to move the 4 over like a normal equation. And we get 16r squared equals 81. We're going to divide by 16. We got r squared equals, we're going to leave it this way. And the reason I know to leave it this way is because then I have to take the square root. The square root of 81 is a perfect 9. The square root of 16 is a perfect 4. Remember, there's always two answers, a positive and a negative. So that's where the decimals come from. Okay. Same thing on the next one. It has a square. So we're going to take the square root to get rid of that. The square root of 0 is 0. And then I'm going to add 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Now for 28, when it has n squared and n, you want to get it equal to 0, factor, and solve. The way I get it equal to 0 is I move that single term over. So I get n squared minus 8n equals 0. Two terms is either GCF or pairs and share. So I'm going to write it out. This one is just going to be GCF of n. And then we solve both. N is just equal to 0, so that's one answer. N minus 8 changes to positive 8. Remember, all we do is change the sign. Why is it that way? Because we set it equal to 0. To solve it, we can add and just get positive 8. 29, you can just put into Desmos like I showed you, or you can factor it and solve it. If you're going to factor it, you want to make sure that that square term is positive. So I'm going to move it and this b to the other side. So I'm going to have 7b squared. I'm going to move this 6b, so I'm going to subtract it. 12 minus 6 is 6b. And then I have a negative 16 over there. Now it's just like the beginning where you factor it. You would have to slide and divide this one. All right. So we're going to move on to the next ones. And the next ones are easy, but they give them to you on the test. So you need to remember. We couldn't remember this in our review. How do you find the distance? You do Pythagorean theorem. So we make a triangle. This triangle is 1 tall and 4 boxes long. We put that in Pythagorean theorem. 1 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. 1 squared is 1. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 1 is 17. And then we take the square root. 17 will not break down. So remember, we have a positive and a negative, but when we're talking about distance, we only use the positive. If you give me a decimal, that's fine as well. All right, so what if they only give you the points? Then you're going to use your Desmos, or you can use this to graph it. We have 2 and then negative 8, which is way down here. And then we have negative 3 and negative 7. Okay, doesn't matter where the points are. We do our rise and our run. Our rise is 1, our run is 5. And we put that in Pythagorean theorem. 1 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. We get 1 plus 25 equals c squared. We get 26 equals c squared. Take the square root. 26 is 13 times 2. There's not any pairs, so it just stays the square root of 26. All right. 2 more and we will be done. 2 more and we will be done, unless you have more questions, and then we'll get there. Okay, so it says find the midpoint. So that means the middle. I'm gonna show you this one on Desmos in a minute too, but we have 5, 4, and 6, 2. We want to find the middle of that. So the way we do that is we add them and divide by 2. So our 2x's are 5 plus 6 divided by 2, which is 11 over 2. You can leave it just like that. And 4 plus 2 over 2, which is 6 over 2 or 3. So your final answer is 11 over 2 and 3. Okay. For this one, you're going to go endpoint to midpoint, and you want to find the other endpoint. So the way we do that is think about a number line. How far is it from -2 to 1 on a number line? So to get from -2 to 1, I add 3. So I'm going to do that to the endpoint, I mean to the midpoint as well. 1 plus 3 is 4. So that's your other endpoint. How do I get from 3 to 2 on a number line? I subtract 1. So I'm going to subtract 1 again. 2 minus 1 is 1. So your other endpoint is going to be 4, 1. Any questions? I'm going to stop sharing.